Hello there. Good morning. Good morning. How is everybody doing? It is Tuesday, and so you know what that means. It means it is time to be on the show To My Younger Self. Today we are doing To My Younger Self, but it is the Author's Corner. So good morning and welcome to Author's Corner on To My Younger Self. Listen, if you're here, do me a favor. I do want to hear from you. So just say good morning, say what's up, say what's going on. Let me just, see that you're here. Beverly Ross, I see you. Oh my God, this woman, I just love you. Thank you so much for joining us. Our topmost fan, Na Akoa, I see you. God bless you, my dear. I will not tell anybody who you truly are, but I love you, sis. Thank you for joining us. You are in for a good ride today. And I expect that after the show is over, you will go get a book. I promise you. Good morning, producer, Madam Producer, Elsie Dixon. I see you, big sis. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, where are you watching us from on the continent of Africa? Today, we have done a jump, right? By way of the US. Yes, last week we were in Nigeria. Today we did an epic leap to Uganda by way of the UK. So welcome. Listen, if you are in Uganda and you speak the Luganda language, Oliotia to you, which is how are you? To San you say Okubalaba to you, meaning we are happy to see you. I hope I pulled that off. Katong and Amohelang to you. If you speak Sesotho, Ndinao to you, Wezo to you. If you are in the Volta region of Ghana and you speak Ewe, Leke, F1, I just hope you're doing very well. Sawubonani to you if you speak Zulu. Bella to you. Ibio Kibari, do you speak Mori or Moshi from Burkina Faso and also parts of Ghana? I welcome you. Thank you for joining us. Baraka Dazua, Sanunku Dazua, Yaya de Kakwana Lafia. Ikwana Lafia, good morning to you. Oh, good morning, father of mine. I see you. I had to break and just say hello to my own daddy. Thank you so much, Dad, for joining us. This is such a good treat. Oh, I am just happy today. Toyote, Ojeko to you. If you speak Nagadeth to you, do you speak Wolof? I greet you. Karibu, Habari ya Osibwe. If you are in the, southern parts of Africa and also some parts of Eastern Africa, I greet you in the Swahili language. Kotolii to you. If you speak Fulani, bonjour, buongiorno, bom dia, buenos dias, welcome. Inyase, Aloy, Domilaki, I greet you in the Bisa language. God bless you all for joining us. Today is an amazing day. We are going to be discussing it's not a little book, because this book is so powerful. As you can see, yours truly has kind of abused this book a lot because I opened it up a lot and I have like all kinds of drawings and writings in there. Yeah, that's what it means to have a great book. It's titled Love Notes to a Dear Daughter. Now, when I read this book, actually my producer, Elsie, introduced me to the amazing author of this book, Dr. Jalia. And at that time, we were doing a show called Dear Daughter. And so my producer said to me, oh my God, sis, there's a friend of mine who wrote a book called Love Notes to a Dear Daughter. And that's how I got to know about this book. And we're going to talk more about it. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. As I continue to read this book, it felt to me as my mother, God rest her soul, could have easily been giving me this advice that, this powerful woman kind of wrote in this book. And so let me introduce Dr. Jalia to you, and we are going to take it up. She is so amazing. I said, can you send me a little bio? And she sent me legit like 3 lines. But Dr. Jalia Kangave is the author of Love Notes to a Dear Daughter, Gather Together Fellow Women. That's 2 books, right? She has written Notes to a Dear Daughter and also Gather Together Fellow Women, and several academic articles on taxation and development. Listen, I do not understand math. I can't do math. So when someone is writing academic articles on taxation, I have like mad respect for that person, okay? Her work is inspired by her experiences as a mother, a woman, and her daily human interactions. She loves reading autobiographies, taking long walks, swimming, and dancing to the beats of African music. Now, that's what I am talking about. Someone who loves to dance to the beats of African music. Listen, without further ado, do me a favor and let us please welcome the doctor herself. She does not like for me to call her doctor, but listen, she earned it. She earned it good. She did good. So I'm going to keep calling her doctor. Let us please introduce to you Dr. Jalia Kangave. Hello.
Hi, Zoe. Hi.
Hi. And listen, my dad is correcting me. Thank you, Father. My dad says the Fulanis speak Folfoldi. Okay, Father, I hear you. Thank you for the correction. You could have called me and said that, but listen, the man gave birth to me. He has carte blanche to, correct me wherever he chooses. So I take it, and we're going to correct that. Hey, Rael Adem, I see you, my sister. Thank you so much for joining us. All right. So, Jalia, let me take this off. This book is so powerful to me. And I feel that every young woman should have this book. Every mother indeed should have this book and read it together with their daughters. And every mother should have this book and make their sons read it so that their sons are able to understand what it actually means to be a woman in this world. At the beginning, when I started to read this book, I noticed something really cool you did at the back of the book. And these are like very young people that you got. Normally, some people would have, praise for a book or reviews for the book at the back of the book. But yours is so different. Let me read a few here. Pascal Nsenga, I hope I said that right. He says, "Hello, reader. I am in year 7 and I am 11 years old. My hobbies are singing and drawing. When I grow older, I want to be a cartoon artist and have my own television show." Wow. Another person here says, that's Alance. She says, "Hello, reader. I am 14 years old and I am in year 10. I enjoy drawing, playing the piano, and reading for pleasure." Now, the reason why I am reading these things here is like these young people are the ones that actually designed the cover of this book, right? So I noticed that you had these young adults do the design for the book, and that's so refreshing. My question to you is this: does that have to do with the title of the book?
And thank you. First of all, Zoe, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. As for your question, so it's Pascal, Alliance, and Martha. So Pascal and Alliance are actually sisters.
Wow.
And they are daughters to this amazing woman who is a hairdresser who does my daughter's hair. She is an amazing mother, and she has 2 girls who are very talented. And then there's Martha, who goes to the hairdresser for her hair as well. So there are 3 young girls, and when I asked them to do this, I actually wasn't even thinking about the book yet. I was just thinking, these are really talented young ladies, but also they're very hardworking. And so for me, it's a coincidence that it ended up being for this book, but they're so talented. And this doesn't even begin to show, what they're capable of doing. So it was that excitement at their talent, but also it was a way of me dreaming about getting these young people to actually get their work out there, to actually get their talent out there. And they worked so hard, you should have seen, this is like the 5th version of a cover that we have. And they were not like, every time I send, I'm like, I don't know, let's change this, let's change this, let's change. And every time they kept coming back, still smiling and say, how can we do it, Auntie? You know how in African countries we call
Yes.
older people Auntie. They're like, Auntie, what do you want? What do you want us to change? What do you want us, you know? So I'm just hoping that, because like Pascal, she's now 12 years old. Pascal wants to be like an artist and everything. And I'm hoping that in some ways that inspires her to know that her work is good enough to
Mm.
be out there. Yes.
Wow.
And you know, and Alliance and Martha too.
Wow. That's just so
Yeah.
amazing. I'm so thankful that you did that. And so I, as I read that, I said to myself, these kids could easily be my nephews and nieces. And I want someone to be able to do that with them and say, I believe in you. And I
Yeah.
want you, on a book, that's very powerful for someone to be able, they would grow up when they're 30, they would be like, yeah, when I was 12, I did this, you
Oh
know?
yeah, I actually think they're going to be out there before they're 30. Like I have
Oh,
no
I
doubt
hope
because they're very, very talented young
yeah.
ladies. Yes,
Wow. That's
yes.
so amazing. And thank you for doing that. And so guys, kudos to you, Martha and Pascal and Alliance. Thank you so much for giving us this powerful, powerful cover. I love how you guys, took time with your fonts and everything is just so beautiful. And so kudos to you. And I look forward to seeing so much more from you guys, to the world. Okay, so we're going to delve into the book. Here's a question. So the book starts off packing a punch. You are enough is in the first chapter. This is, if you have the book, guys, I want you to just grab it with, as we go along, and we're going to kind of read a few excerpts so you know what I'm talking about. So in this book, this is on page 12, and it's actually chapter 1. I'm going to read a little bit so you understand what I'm talking about. It's titled, You Are Enough. And this is how it goes. It says, one day when I was about 12 or 13 years old, I was having a heated argument with an older male cousin. I must have been winning the argument because he felt the need to tell me that I was not beautiful and that I would need to work really hard to succeed in life. Wow. Coming from a male figure that I looked up to, those words pierced my heart and punctured my confidence. I began to see myself as only one thing. Wow, not beautiful. And I imagined that everyone who saw me saw what my cousin had seen. I spent the rest of my teenage years and the bulk of the years that would follow trying to make up for my lack of beauty. I got into relationships that I shouldn't have, exposed myself to abuse that I did not deserve, and desperately and frequently tried to compensate for the beauty that I had been informed I lacked. It was not until my late 30s. First of all, you do not even look like you're in your 30s, talking about my late 30s. It was not until my late 30s that I came to the realization that I was enough, that only I could define my beauty, only I could determine my worth, that what really mattered was not what others thought of me, but what I thought of myself. Now it goes on for a little longer, but I'm going to end here and ask you this question, Doctor. So I felt the impact of every word because I grew up like that too. I grew up spending a lot of time in the mirror because I've had a very weird relationship with my face. I don't know who told me I wasn't, actually, I know who told me I wasn't beautiful. That came from my own mother. So I spent a lot of time in front of the mirror trying to make myself look beautiful. So here's the question. How have your daughters, your nieces, and young females around you reacted to this chapter, this particular one? What are some of the things you've heard people tell you?
You know, the funny thing with writing something like this is that we haven't had a chance for anyone to come and say specifically to me that, this is the thing that affected me the most, right? I've had feedback of things like, oh, this book has impacted me. It's the most beautiful thing that I've read. It's the most, in terms of the chapter on You Are Enough, I haven't had anyone come. And I think part of that, especially when you're talking to younger people, is the shame associated with it,
Mm.
right? So first of all, I am not in my late 30s anymore. I am in my 40s, right?
Oh, you do not look it.
But it took me all these years to actually be able to talk about it.
Mm.
And when my sister, one of my younger sisters, Didi, when she read it, she said, "Oh my God, you were going through that all this time, right? Because you don't show it, right? You develop some kind of armor, and you're like, I'll protect myself." So in my case, for me, I was like, okay, I've been told that I'm not beautiful, so I'm going to have to work hard, like my cousin said. I'm going to have to work really, really hard. I'm going to have to get very good grades because, after all, I cannot depend on my face, right? So,
Wow.
in terms of young people, I think it's hard for them because you internalize the message. Words, they have power, right? So you internalize the message. I am not beautiful. I am not. I don't deserve good things, and so I hope that a young girl out there can read that and think, you know what, I am enough, whether I'm thin or fat or short or tall or light or dark, I'm enough. But then after writing the book, Zoe, there's something else that I realized, that not enoughness is not just about what we look like,
Mm.
but I realized that not enoughness is also in the things that we do. So even after all these years, once I read the book and I finished writing it and I published it, I looked back and I realized that I was still not enough in other ways, right? And
Wow.
I'll give you one example. I realized that I was doing offering to do too much all the time at my daughter's schools. I like to volunteer, but at some point I realized that I'm putting my hand up a lot
Mm.
to be accepted, right? I am putting my hand up a lot so that they can see me. And especially if you are a Black person in a predominantly white environment, you sort of think, okay, they need to know that Black people are hardworking. They need to know that they can count on us. They need to know. And at some point I thought, this is my not enoughness in another form, right? And we see women do it. We see women, you're working, you have a job outside, you still come back home and you feel like you have to perform and perform and perform and perform, because we're constantly seeking for approval, we're constantly seeking for acceptance. And so I think it transcends the physical beauty, and sort of looks at the other ways in which we try to,
Mm.
to show that we are enough, that we should be accepted, that we belong to a certain community and a certain society. Yes,
Wow.
yes.
Wow. That
I,
is
I'm
so powerful that you say that. Go ahead, please.
yeah.
Yes.
I'm curious, Zoe, from what you said, and I wonder whether it's something that you're comfortable about. You said that in your case, it was your mother who said it to
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Under what circumstances were this, and how are you able to get over it?
Well, I've actually shared this story at the very beginning of this particular Wirecast back in the day when it used to just be me. I've shared the story many,
Yes.
many times to those who are close to me, but I'll kind of compound it. She was actually speaking to another one of her own friends. It was her friend she was speaking to. Now, my sister, who is here and I absolutely love dearly, in my family, I am the darkest one.
Mm,
All my siblings are a little lighter skinned than I am.
mm,
And my younger sister, the one that's right after me, Ralia, is here. And I, again, love her to death. She was, my mom used to call her Miss Ghana. This girl
mhm.
was born with hair all over her face, amazingly beautiful. I think she's the most beautiful person I have ever seen in my life. And she had like this lanky thing going on. She's 5'7", I'm 5'4", I am dork stat. It was all kinds of things. And
Mm,
we had gone to fetch water. Well, I had on my head, and I was bringing it to my mother's salon. she was training as an apprentice at the time, and the person she was talking to was technically her boss, but they were also friends. And the woman said in our local dialect, I will say it in that way and then I will translate it, but she was saying, hey nanti Mary abanisena uba we di ono kwaye tuntum sa, meaning that how come this daughter of yours is so black or so dark? And my mom, obviously, I don't think she meant to hurt me, but I hurt her because, you know, you go to pour the water from your head into the barrel, and I hear them conversing, and she says, "Oh, midini huhru miyim," which to say, "Oh, I just used her to clean my womb. Now the beautiful ones are coming." Now, you wouldn't think that, you know, you don't realize how much you internalize that. But I grew up, for the most part, thinking if you are this dark, you are not pretty. And I don't think, again, she was really trying to hurt me, but she had a way of just saying, my Miss Ghana, you know, my Miss Ghana, which was my sister. We had other names for her, but that was the predominant one in my head, that she is the pretty one. And so I grew up, and I have this tribal mark. Most people can't see it, but I do. I have a tribal mark, another relationship I've had with my face, saying, first, I am dark and I have a tribal mark. I spent a lot of money trying to get this off because I thought at least if it went away, I might look acceptable enough. And so much like you, I spent most of my time in school really trying to be the best, the most intelligent in the room. I wanted to overachieve to make up for my lack of beauty. Now, the funny thing is that it was much later in my life when I came to America that people would stop me in the street and say, especially African American men, they have a way of talking, right? And they would say, damn, girl. And I would be like, what does that even mean? So it took me a long time to accept this face. And then, of course, in recent years, at least in the last 3 years that I've been on this show, it has now, everyone says, oh my God, you have beautiful skin. I never grew up thinking that. You know what I mean? I never grew up thinking, wow, beautiful skin. So that's the story there. And I think that I have definitely overcome it, but it took a long, long time. For me to do that. But thank you for that question. I felt like I was on the spot.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing it. And I'm glad you've taken that journey.
Yes, it's been a very long one. So we're going to move on to chapter 7. Chapter 7 is one of my absolute favorite chapters in your book. And I'm trying to read these very short chapters, guys, so that you know what I'm talking about my love for this book. So I'm going to read a little excerpt. Actually, maybe I'll read all because it's very, very short. So, you know, listen to this. This is chapter 7. It's titled, Don't Stop Singing. And this is what she says. It says, I hope you don't stop singing. And I imagine that it would start with, Dear daughter, I hope you don't stop singing. As a young girl, I loved singing. I would sing at the top of my lungs without a care of what I sounded like and oblivious to who was listening. When I ran out of songs to sing, I would compose my own songs and teach them to my younger siblings, who did not have much of a choice over whether or not they wanted to join my band. But somewhere along the way, I stopped singing. I became more conscious about the sound of my voice, and I became less playful. I'm not sure exactly when this happened, but it certainly had to do with growing up. I was led to believe that people would only take me seriously if I put on a tough exterior. I forgot the joy of voicing out song. I forgot the creativity that was sparked by play, and I forgot the therapy of hearty laughter. I started to hide my smile and quieten my voice. I lost a child in me who was so essential in dealing with the adult world. I hope you don't stop singing, little girl. I hope you continue being playful. Remember to laugh out loud and to dance to the beats of drums. Even when you grow up, indeed, particularly when you grow up, because there are going to be many opportunities in your life to showcase your seriousness. some even unwelcome and heartbreaking. So play and sing and dance and laugh every so often. Grow up, but stay youthful and playful. Wow. Wow, wow. So let me ask you this then. Do you love your voice now, and how often do you sing? And do you let your daughter sing?
Oh, my daughter, especially my younger daughter, she's like chaos, you know. She'll be in the bathroom and she'll be like, woo, you know. She is totally clueless of the world around her. And I look at her and, I had a hairdresser here sometime who was doing my hair and she was sitting there and she didn't know we were watching her, but she was just loud and, she's like a volcano, like she's, so every time I hear her, I just say, I hope you don't stop singing, I
Oh,
really hope you don't stop singing. Am I singing? I think, just like not enoughness, it's so I'm not singing as much as I used to, literally, right? But I'm trying to remind myself of the joy, I'm trying to remind myself of the beauty of play and of not taking life too seriously, right? Because once we got into law school, there was this thing, you have to wear a black suit and you have to look a certain way and you have to and
and you have to wear the thing too? I don't know what it's called.
I didn't wear that. Elsie will tell you, but Elsie probably did. Yes, but I think what we lose when we stop singing and when we stop playing is we don't only lose like our childhood but we also lose our childhood imagination, we lose our creativity, we lose the way we connect with each other. So I'll every once in a while, my sisters and I and my nephews and nieces, we get together. But every time we get together, we play. We play. We have this race where we mix up the grown-ups and the really young ones, and no one is exempt. So all the way, 50-year-olds are in a race with 5-year-olds, right? And we mix up the teams and we have a race, and it's one of the most amazing time for all of us. The kids get to see us being children, they get to see which auntie is really quick at running and who's really slow, and then we get to laugh so much, right? And I don't know if you ever played, we had a game called Start Stop when we were young, right? Where start, and then you start thinking about a letter in your head, and when they tell you stop, you say what letter you were at, and then you're supposed to write the car that starts with that letter and the country and the and food, and so this in December we're playing that game. But some of the names that my sisters fabricated, some of the things that they came up with, it was so funny, it was so hilarious, right? But it's the connection, it's a connection that comes through play. And so I'm trying to reintroduce that even in my classes, because there's a way in which seriousness creates a wall and creates a barrier and says, you're here and I'm there. Well, when we play and when we sing and when we dance, we see each other, we're connected to each other. So I still have a lot of work to do as far as that is concerned, but I'm definitely diving back into more play and more singing, for sure.
Wow.
And I hope you're doing the same, Zoe.
You know what? Yes, I am actually. And Rael is here. I don't have my nieces and my nephews around me, but I'm very playful. I'm very I like to learn the new dances that the kids have. They do this dance where they throw their legs about. And so Rael has an amazing family, and they're Kenyan, but I call them my family. And when I go to their house is when I legit let loose. Zach, who is, now I believe 7 or 8. No, he's 8. My God, Zach, he's 8. He's going to let me know he's 8. And, Jotham and all these kids, they are active and energetic, and I love that. Just this Sunday, Jotham wanted to do donkey ears behind my back, and it was in church, and I just loved that he knew he could do it without repercussion.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, I really wish there was more around me to be able to do that. But just in my house, I'm always, I get on the couch and I do a Celine Dion, once, I just so I absolutely love that. But Ken, let me answer your question. You can find it on Amazon, right? Because I found mine on Amazon. You can find it on Amazon. And indeed, this is for those of you in Africa, especially in Uganda. Can you tell us where they can get it?
So I can leave a link. Yes, there's I can send you a message of where that I should have thought about that before, but we do have copies in Uganda. We have copies in Kenya as well, and we're looking at taking some to other African countries, depending on whether there's demand for them there.
And there is going to be demand definitely in Ghana. And speaking about that, this particular episode of To My Younger Self, which is Author's Corner, is actually brought to you by Book Nook, which is your one-stop online bookstore. So let us hear a message from Book Nook, and then we're going to come back and discuss love notes to a dear daughter. We will be right back.
Very serious question. Our kids have often asked, how come I look so different from the people in the books I read? Their homes, their food, their celebrations feel so different. Parents, we should not discount these as mere kids' questions. They often struggle with their identities, and this is crucial for their development. Let's begin with exposure. Reading brings exposure and enlightenment, but not just reading. Reading materials that resonate with your identity. Reading books by our Ghanaian authors on our heritage, our culture, our occasions, our folklore, our history, our way of life. Reading about everything that there ever was. But more importantly, reading material that are written by us.
Well, welcome back. We're going to dive right in. So in this book, there's a chapter, I believe it's chapter 15, and that would be on page 42. It's titled, Love is Not Pain. And can I just say, I have read and reread that chapter many, many times, and this is the proof of it. You can see how I have unfortunately just kind of, I earmarked it. I don't know. I have a very interesting relationship with this book. It sits right here on my workbench, I tell you. But, as I reread this chapter, my heart continued to weep because there's so many women in this particular state. Can I read this very shortly? Actually, Doctor, can you read that part? I want you to read chapter 15 for us. Love is not pain.
Okay, I'll read, I think I'll just read part of it because I say it's a bit long, but I'll read, so it says, Dear daughter, I have an intelligent, beautiful and vivacious friend whose eye sockets were plucked out by her estranged husband. She is now blind. My other friend's sister was killed by a jealous husband. She was just in her early 20s. She left behind 2 daughters who are now teenagers. And one of my cousins died in her late 20s after contracting AIDS from her unfaithful husband. These might seem like extreme examples. They might also seem like incidents that are unlikely to happen to you or to people who are like you. Yet they're more common than we think. Every day, thousands of women around the world are killed, maimed, or emotionally scarred by men who claim to love them. These women are educated and they're uneducated. They're Black and white and brown. They are employed and they're unemployed. They're thin and fat. They're rich and they're poor. They are loud and they're soft-spoken. Always remember, dear daughter, that there is no justification for anyone to physically or mentally abuse you. A man who hurts you does not love you. A man who beats you does not love you. A man who calls you names and belittles you does not love you. It does not matter how many flowers he buys you or how expensive the gifts that he showers you with are. It does not matter how much he says he loves you. The expression of love is not in the things that he gives you or the words that he utters. The expression of love is in the way that he treats you. So I'll stop there.
Ah, wow. I had a question, I promise, but I just wanted to pause and let that sink in. This part where you say these women are educated and they are uneducated. They are black and white and brown. And dare I say, or add yellow and green. They are all kinds of colors. They are employed and they are unemployed. They are thin and they are fat. They're in between. They're medium, large, extra large, whatever you want to call it. They are rich and they are poor. They are loud and they are soft spoken. It tells me what you're saying to your daughter and indeed to every woman is there is no particular definition of what abuse would look like on a person or why someone would abuse another person, you
Yeah.
know. And as I read that, I wanted to ask you, in your experience, have men around you endured such experiences in the name of love? If not, why do you think that is? And why is it women that always have to go through this? Is there a social or a mental chasm that has separated women? I know the Bible does say, and indeed even the Quran does say that women are the weaker sex, but does that mean we were made for experiences like this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, there are men who go through abuse, definitely. There are men who are abused. There are men who are maimed by their, women. But the majority of this happens to women. And I think for me, but we see this changing, but I think for me, part of the challenge with this is that we've somehow created a society where it is not safe to go and tell people that this is what is happening to you, where we have a common term, and this doesn't necessarily speak to physical abuse, but it could be mental or anything. We have a term in Uganda where they tell you, it's called guma. Guma means be strong, right?
Wow.
When people are enduring things in marriage, be strong. So women have, traditionally and for a long time been shamed. And then we don't talk about these things. So when it's happening to you, it seems like you're the only one that it's happening to. But it's also the warped way in which some people see this as love. And I remember we used to have a driver when I was younger, a driver at home. And I remember him saying something like, if you don't beat a woman, she doesn't know that you love her, right?
Wow.
Well, he wasn't the only person who had said this. It wasn't the first time I was hearing this statement. If they don't beat you, then they don't love you. So there's also people who ascribe to that notion of, this is what love looks like. But I think what needs to be done is to create an environment where it's okay for women to live without being blamed, because many times when women are trying to live these marriages, sometimes people say, what did she do? She must have done something to provoke him, So,
Wow.
like I said, things are getting better, but then there's still a lot. You still hear a lot of abuse going on. Now it's moving from being physical to actually being mental. So you don't see the physical scars, but you do see the mental scars. But the other thing that I'd like to talk about on the opposite side, Zoe, is at the same time. So abuse, like it's a no-go area, right? It's a no-no. We however also have to be careful about how we perceive relationships. I think there's also this notion now among us, both men and women, independent woman or a man who has many choices, and so we're not ready to put the work into marriages, right? We're not. And when you hear when you hear someone saying work, you're like, oh, that's not love. So we have a romanticized idea of what relationships should be and what marriage should be like, and definitely made worse by things like Instagram, where you just see a wedding picture of someone, and so that when you start having an argument with your husband, or when things start being hard, you're like, no, this is not working, this is not working, there's no love here, maybe I need to leave this relationship. So I think on the other side of it is we have romanticized the whole notion of marriage and the whole notion of relationships and made it seem easy, but nothing in life is easy, is it?
Yes.
So I think that we also need to be able to put the work into it. But, beating your wife and everything, we need to draw that line and say, no, this is not going to happen. Yes.
Wow. And I'm so glad you brought that up, and so powerful. Just 2 or 3 days ago, somebody was in my emails on Facebook, because I had posted a picture, which, by the way, I had taken several weeks ago, but just felt to post it that day. And for that guy, he thought that I was having a lot of fun. And so he makes a statement and he says, well, you're not minding us because you're having so much fun. Look at your life. Meanwhile, at that time, legitimately, I was in my house by myself, alone. And this was a way for me to kind of interact with the outside world. But see, that I like the fact that you brought up the idea of Instagram and Facebooking and all these pictures we take. Sometimes if people are not careful, they might think that your life is so rosy when it is not. And that gives them the impression that you are above certain things. We saw a recent example of that happening to a big Hollywood actor about 2 days ago, and the way he acted and all kinds of things. So we just thank you for saying that, just drawing the line and knowing what love is and what love is not, what marriage is and what marriage is not. I know for a fact what Hollywood teaches us is not love. That is a montage of somebody's life crammed into an hour and a half. We have to be careful with that. And indeed, we're not saying this happens only to, women. I've seen men who go through a lot of verbal abuse and mental and sometimes even physical abuse from the women that claim love these men. So we have to be careful how we define what love is. Koa says, walking by the lakeside with your husband and 2 beautiful children, feeding the ducks kind of love. And, taking the pictures and posing in some way,
Yes.
As Elsie says, people use the mirage of social media as a standard to gauge their satisfaction or lack thereof.
Very true.
Ryle, who I know has been married for many, many, many years and has a wonderful family, and if I tell you, she actually has 7 children and all of them are amazing. That takes a lot of work, okay? And she says, good marriage tips, relationship tips. People should stop looking at social media and trying to live like that. Amen to that. Amen to that. Okay. So guys, as you can see, this book, let me see how many pages. I've never actually bothered to even read how many pages this is. It's 113 pages. I guarantee you, I read this book first time I got it in one afternoon in less than an hour because I was taking in so much, and my eyes kept popping. Whoa, 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 and I just kept going, and I finished it in less than an hour. You can do that too. I urge you, especially for the mothers who have daughters, please get them. And I'm trying to figure out how to get this to my nieces and my nephews in Ghana and also out there in Switzerland. You guys need to read this. All right, so we're going to move on. Jalia, I love how you write about the differences between modesty and humility. And I'm going to go there. It's chapter 34, which is on page 69. Let me pull that up. And you titled it, "Do Not Be Modest About Your Achievements." I think I want to read all of this, guys, if you don't mind, because it packs a punch. So let me just pull it up and I'll ask the question. So as a woman, and particularly as an African Muslim woman, I was socialized to equate modesty with virtuousness. I was told not to be loud because ladies do not shout. I was reminded not to talk about my accomplishments because that would seem like boasting, and God does not like proud people. And I was taught not to put my hand up for positions because that was being too upfront, too pushy. As a result, I learned to downplay my achievements. I lowered and many times silenced my voice and waited for my turn to be chosen. Oh my good God. One day, my supervisor in graduate school told me, "You are very modest, Jalia. That's a good thing. Unfortunately, in this market, that does not always work in your favor. When you downplay your achievements, others who have done much less than you access more opportunities because they are not afraid to talk about their achievements. Modesty, as Maya Angelou said, is quite different from humility. Maya said, a modest person will drop the modesty in a minute. You see, it is a learned affectation, but humility comes from the inside out. Humility says, there is someone before me, someone found the path, someone made the road before me, and I have the responsibility of making the road for someone who is yet to come. So, dear daughter, remember that humility is a much more desirable and admirable virtue. Be humble, but not modest. If you have done the work, claim it. You are not showing off. You're simply stating what you have done. My goodness. My goodness. Can I just say this propelled me to start writing some emails to certain people, because for a long time I just thought, the work you're doing is good. People will see it eventually. It's out there on the internet. They'll see it. But after I read this, and this is why this book is so powerful for me, it's become part of my Bible reading. Dare I say that? I read my Bible and then I come here also and I read some things. And I started writing emails to certain people and saying, this is to my younger self. This is what we have done. This is what we hope to do. And we want to be a part of the project, and so on and so forth. Not necessarily boasting about what we've done, but like you said at the tail end, it is a fact that we have actually done the work, So this is the question. Is this incredible difference helping you in your adult life, and how do you remember to maintain it?
So Zoe, that's one of the things I'm still really working on. I remember the first time I had that being said by Maya Angelou, and I totally, I'm like, no, now I'm going to have to disagree with Dr. Maya Angelou. I don't agree with them, because I totally did not, I said, no, modesty is a good thing, because that's what we've been taught, right? That's what we grew up learning. Don't blow your own horn, And so it's something that I'm really still working on. And even as just last year or the year before, my younger brother had to call me and say, look, I've seen your LinkedIn page. Why aren't you putting your PhD on the LinkedIn page? And this is a professional page, Why aren't you putting, and I'm like, he's like, no, why, you have the PhD, so why aren't you putting it there? But I found that, and now I see where Maya Angelou comes from. I found that modesty in some ways is performative, right? You're performing to the outside. Deep inside, you're saying, okay, I haven't put my PhD there. I hope someone talks about it. I hope this and this. And it doesn't really speak to you being humble, right? It doesn't really speak to you. So I can put Dr. Jalia Kangave, but then deep inside, I can say, I'm so grateful for all the role that these other people played in my life. So I've dealt with this performative part and put it out of the way. And now going back and really being humble. We're taught modesty, but humility is the better thing, right?
Yes.
Humility is appreciating what others have done to make this possible for you. Modesty is performing. And like Dr. Angela said, can be, in a minute, it can be lost. Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm glad that you're sending those emails.
Yeah.
You have done the work, right?
And I'm glad you talked about the LinkedIn. Yes, why not? You're a doctor. You earned it. It's worth it. And this is a story I'll share very quickly. When we did the first flyer, and please do forgive me again. I actually did. This is another thing. You should put it out there. You are Dr. You are doctor. So I didn't know that she's a doctor, that Dr. Jalia is a doctor. So we just put her first name and her last name. And I love that you came back and you said, please put the doctor in front, because you earned it. It was not showing off. And I checked myself and said, yes, she is a doctor. And we have to put that there.
But I struggled with that, Zoe. I struggled with that text message. I'm like, what's Zoe going to think about me?
No.
Oh, Zoe going to see, that's the thing. That's the thing to learn, And then I could hear my young brother's voice saying, but it is what it is, right? So get that out of the way and then do the real work.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you earned it. It wasn't like a doctorate that they gave you from some wayside university because, like a doctor emeritus. I don't even know what that means, but you know what I mean? So I thank you for doing that, because you showed me that you actually are living the words of this book when that happened. So thank you for listening.
I'm working on it. I'm working on that bit, yeah.
And Nakoa says, the buffer between humility and modesty is the integrity of your work. Integrity in your work propels you to show your self-worth. And this is so true. If you're doing something and you're doing it very well, and you now tell people this is what I do, they don't have a thing about it that said, well, so what? Because you putting in the hard work. So I am so glad that you wrote this to your daughter. And producer says it's about knowing your worth. It's about knowing your worth. Let's see. The Bren, I hope I'm saying this right. Brene or Brene, the Bren. Please forgive me if I totally butchered that. Says you need to know and believe in your worth. And Auntie Dora says, let us be like Chinua Achebe's lizard. Now you're taking me somewhere else. I do not even know what that means. I'm going to need some explanation. Pastor Ninette says, just got the book. Woo! Yes. I love seeing that. She just got the book. Guys.
Thank you. Thank you for the support.
Thank you. This is what Authors Corner is about, that we are able to showcase African authors because they write, yes, for Africans, but also to the world. And can I tell you a little secret? We're trying to kind of overpower Amazon there. And so that's why we are being sponsored by Book Nuke. That's your one-stop shop. That's the online shop for all African writers and all things African books, right? Okay. We're going to move on. There is a part here that Dr. Jalia's, she didn't write. Her husband actually wrote this part. And it is a very powerful part, because as I read it, I kept thinking, my father would say this. My father has said this. My father says this to me. and in no so in not so in so many words, but he's lived his life like that, and he shows it to me every day. And my dad is here today, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Dad, but thank you for being who you are, and thank you for always letting me be who I am and showing me that I am so much more than I can ever think I was. And so it's titled Love from a Father. It is so, so powerful. In fact, I don't have any questions about this, but I wanted us to read bits and pieces of it, and just to inform our audience, our very, very active and, just amazing audience, what this is all about. But before we do that, Dr. Jalia, can you please tell me why you asked your husband to write this part? Or why you felt the need to
Yeah,
to
yeah.
write this part?
I felt, if we're having, well, first of all, I would have wished he would have written his own book, right?
Maybe he will one day.
but then it was that kind of thing of where you're thinking, if we're writing this to our daughters, there are things that I as a woman will never really understand, right? And so there are things which a man can contextualize, their way of thinking to a young girl, right? So and my husband is he's a straight talker, right? Which gets him into a lot of trouble many times, but it's an effective way of getting the message across. And so I thought it would be nice to just have, and when you get the book, you see that these are just really short notes. It was from that perspective of there's some things which I experience as a woman, and I experience them from a male side, but I don't know where they're coming from. I don't know what their thought process is, So I asked him, if he could just write a few things for us to include in the book.
Wow. I'm going to take the first part, and then I'll let you choose which part you like, and then we'll just keep it going like that. But from the first part, honestly, I read it and I kept hearing my father's voice like, yeah, he'll say that. He'll say that. But here it goes. It says, love from a daughter, number 1. Yes, I am a grown man, older and wiser as the adage goes, but I don't know everything, may forget some things, and won't always understand you as accurately as you feel. There are some things you may know that I won't, and things you feel that I may never experience, in parentheses, like your periods. There are encounters you may find yourself in that I haven't exactly had to deal with. Just know that you can talk to me about life, that I will always be there to support and protect you as best as I can. Let's communicate about what we would like from each other. It doesn't mean you will always get what you want. If I do not seem to understand, please feel free to tell me what to do. I will take it as guidance rather than an order. Talk to me, or let me just give you a hug when in turmoil. No need to talk sometimes. We may not be on the exact same page, but we are in the same book, in parentheses, of life, just different editions. I love you. How powerful. I cried the first day I read it, and I'm beginning to feel the tears well up even now. Because it brought up so many memories of times when I was so overwhelmed with life, and all I needed to do was grab the phone and call my dad. Not necessarily to even tell him what I was going through, but to hear my dad pick up the phone and say the hello. Or sometimes he would do hello, my friend, because my dad likes to call me his friend. Hello, my friend. And I would just feel calm and say, okay, I'm good now. It's not better. The situation didn't get better, but I heard my father's voice. And there's some times when I'm going through something, I would talk to my dad, and he would have no answers except to hear me. And sometimes if he can fix it, this is my dad legitimately, he would say, okay, give me an hour. I'll call you back and he uses military time. So he would say, I'll call you back at 1600. And then click. There is really no ceremony about it, But in an hour at 1600, you better bet you'll get a call and he will say, I got time to think about it. Have you thought about it this way, that way, that way, that way? And that's pretty much it. And sometimes you just know in his voice, girl, I do not understand or know how to help you. Why are you crying? But he won't say it. You just know it
Yeah.
in his voice. So I am so thankful for this chapter. So this is my favorite, the very first one. What is yours?
Well, I have many, but I'll read four.
Okay.
The fourth one, power.
Mm-hmm.
You should have power over yourself if
Mm.
you want to flourish, using it to influence others.
Mm.
You may occasionally feel certain ways, good or bad,
Mm.
because of what people say. In those moments, you will have ceded power over to them. Your power lies in your gentleness.
Mm.
Nature made you appear relatively fragile to most men, and patriarchy has mischaracterized you as the weaker sex, in quotes. Do not fall into the trap of trying to express power using male yardsticks. Your strength lies in your vulnerability. You can make your voice heard without shouting.
Mm.
You can make your sentiments felt without being unkind. Even your silence speaks volumes.
Can I just give you? There's light thrown on here. Do you see the way I have actually? Is that here? I have actually penned through it. This is how powerful this part has been for me. And when I read, even your silence speaks volumes. Now, there's something we call my dad um, in my family. He's our quiet strength. You know,
Mm,
when everything is going, oh, everyone is jumping, and my dad is the quiet one. He's just looking and looking, and most often than not, he's already figured it out
mm,
whilst everybody else is just going, oh my God, it's about
yeah.
to rain. And he's figured, you
Mm,
guys need an umbrella. If
mm,
you don't have one, you need to get into the shelter with his quietness. And
yeah,
he's already under the umbrella,
yeah.
waiting for you guys to figure it out. And so I was like, oh, this is so powerful. And I would want for my daughter to know that
Mm,
there is so much strength in quietness, but not necessarily quietening your voice.
yeah,
But knowing how to balance that is so important. Now, this
yeah.
is one of my favorites. It's actually number 3. And again, you can see I have a little dot there. And so I'm going to read it. There is a difference between joy and happiness. Ooh, that would preach. My good God, that would preach. Many things and people may make you happy, but genuine joy, only you can originate. Because you're reading this book, you have life. You can read or hear. You have the capacity to process the content and so much more. Whenever you feel despondent, I love that word, despondent. Feel around you and smile at the little flowers growing between stones, the insects buzzing about, birds chirping, the food aromas, the different colors around you, people laughing, textures and songs of life. Marvel at your own growth. Painful experiences are necessary and will certainly happen. Suffering from them is an option which is unnecessary. Whew! An example of pain is your period. An example of suffering is resenting it and wondering why it has to be so painful for you. My God. Wow. It just changed my perspective on so many things. And you know, the chat room is buzzing. Let me see what other people are saying. Pastor Ninette says, my goodness, that was so good. I believe it referred to when you were reading the part about power. Auntie Doris says, your strength lies in your vulnerability. Yes, I have had to learn that the hard way. And one day I'll tell you that story. Nuto Oklu says, Amenovi, which is, I believe, in ever, please correct me, either friend or sister. Elsie, glad to joining. What a morning. Thanks for introducing me to these powerful women. Oh, we are so glad to know you too, my dear. And Akwe to you. Thank you. Thank you. Audrey, who is our underground producer, one day we're going to put her name right here. She says, your power lies in your gentleness. Yes. Auntie Doris says again, in quietude. Whew, English is coming out. And confidence is strength. Quote, unquote, Bible. All right, these are just, just so much love coming from the audience. Kendi Love says, I know Kendi is definitely getting this book, and I might just get it for you for your birthday. Kendi, happy birthday, happy belated birthday to you. Thank you for joining us again, my dear. I do love you so profoundly. But she says, so profound, I am definitely getting this book. Yes, 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 you are. And joy and happiness, they're not synonymous. One is a choice, and one you just kind of feel around you. Another one from you, doctor, and then we're gonna, go.
From this chapter, or do I?
Yeah, from this chapter. This chapter is so powerful. By the way, guys, there's 16 of it, so there's like 16 different nuggets of it. Yeah.
Mm. So I'll read this one because it really does define who he is. The fifth one says, love is not blind like the fictional music, books, and movies suggest. To love blindly is a failure to exercise your ability to judge character or indeed be conscious of who and what is good for you. I still do not understand why people fall in love. For falling is usually accidental and certainly never a good thing.
I love it.
Falling connotes losing control, and often those who fall hurt themselves. When getting into something, it is important that you be aware that you have control over how to feel and what to do, when and where. A woman with little or no self-control is most attractive to controlling people. Showing self-control will earn you trust from those who genuinely care about you.
Wow. Wow. Oh my God. I cannot, it feels like I'm going on and on and on and on about this book. But, there's something about truly enjoying someone's work in a book that is written so powerfully, that generates conversation and also allows you to be able to have very honest conversations with the younger ones. I want to be able to buy this book for every young woman in my church. I believe they need it. I want to be able to buy this book for the young women I mentor. So guys, go on Amazon and please, please, please find this book. You will not, I promise you, you will not regret it. And if you do, just reach out to me and say, I bought this book, I regretted it, I want my money back. I'll give you the money, even though I don't have the money.
Thanks, Zoe.
And that's my personal guarantee to you. Lastly, let me just put this here. It says here, and this is number 14. It says, be curious. Do not stop being inquisitive about society, your heritage, and your environment. Always think why things are as they seem. Why are you being advised to behave a certain way? Why people say no? Why people suggest something is good or bad for you? My goodness. And I really do want to unhook because we're an hour and 8 in, and we thought 45 minutes. Yeah, that never happens. But there is one part that you write about your grandfather. And first, why? And I do want us to go there and read a few things from there. Yes, please, let's talk about that for a bit.
So why did I write?
Yes, why did you choose? Yes.
So my grandfather's story has always amazed me, and I've had different versions of this story. But I think it really hit me when COVID happened, because I do tell the story of when there was a plague in the 1920s, right?
Yes.
And in that plague, my grandfather lost his mother, his wife, and his cousin.
Yes.
And I remember being told that he tried to look for people to help with the burial, but everyone was so scared, right? And
So,
they couldn't help him, right? And I didn't understand it. And I kept thinking, you know, how is it possible that that could happen? How is it possible that his own relatives could not help? And then COVID happened, and I rang my mom and I said, you know, I finally understand, you know, because here we were, my sisters would come and see me, and they wouldn't come in, which would never happens, right? They're coming from out of town, but they'd have to stay away, right? We saw people who had sick people in hospital. Someone has their husband in hospital, and they're not able to go and visit them, right? Some people were dying and they're on video cam. And I just thought, now I finally understand it. Now I understand what was going on. So that's why it hit me. There was a darkness that was hovering over most of us during that period, but it finally hit me what it meant, you know, then, and why there was so much uncertainty and so much anxiety. But it was also a story of hope, because if they were able to, you know, go through this and be able to laugh again and be able to hug again and be able to smile again, then it also gave me hope that, you know, we're also going to go through this and be able to do those things that we've always loved. So it was very pertinent at that time.
Wow. I will read this part very quickly. I'm sorry, guys. This is how much I love this book. But this is in chapter, page 95. It says, many years later, she told us that the only thing that kept her going was her children. When she knelt on her mat to say her prayers, she asked God to just keep her alive long enough so she could see her grandchildren grow and finish school. Today, she does not only enjoy the gift of her healthy and thriving children, but she is also immersed in the joy of grandchildren. She lives around the same neighborhood where she grew up, close to her siblings. Shortly after returning to Uganda, she opened a business. She was a great success. She was able to laugh again and hope again. And this is the part where, and I intentionally did this because I want you guys to be curious enough to wonder, we were talking about a grandfather, but why are we now saying she? There's a reason, and you have to read the book to understand why all of this is. But Dr. Jalia was actually writing about how, you know, she overcame again. I'm not going to tell you who this is. And the fact that this virus was going to go away, and indeed, how very prophetic. We're beginning to see sunshine again. We're beginning to see that. And at this point, when you wrote this book, we hadn't found a cure yet. Look at that. We did find a vaccine for the pandemic. And now we can go out, especially if you're vaccinated, necessarily without a mask, as if you're not in a very big group and things like that. So thank you for writing this book. I really, really want to say that. Thank you. And it sounds like I'm doing an advert. I promise you, Dr. Jalia has not paid me to do this, and I would not want her to pay me. She has earned her spot in the legends of Author's Corner on To My Younger Self. And we would love to be able to invite you again to talk about your other book, you know, Gather Around Fellow Women. And so I'm going to go get that now because I have this. So I had someone, it sounded funny, but it is not. Let me just pull it up real quick. I want to be able to say something about that. Is it Portia? I think her name is Portia. Yes, Portia. She says, please buy me one. Buy one for me. I am your daughter too. Smiley face. Yes, I don't know that I am old enough to be your mother, but I'll take it. Look at this pretty face. But if I know where you are, I will get one to you. I promise. Just let's figure out who you are and where you are, my dear. We want you to have this book. Dr. Audrey, she is a doctor too. I am like in so many, like this is great. Dr. Audrey says, I obviously love today's episode on TMYS, so enlightening. Thanks for enlightening our lives today, Dr. Kangave. I love, love, love that. And
Thank you.
that we are going to try to sign off. But before we do, Doctor, what would be your last thing? We always give our audience, our guest, last thing they want to, something we can go through the week with.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much, Zoe, for having me. I'm really, really grateful for it. And thank you for the conversation. My last thing, I think, is just to remind us all to be gentle with ourselves, right? To be gentle with ourselves, to remember that life is hard enough without us having to beat ourselves up. And life is going to beat us up anyway, right? So be kind to yourself. Forgive yourself. You're going to make mistakes. Forgive yourself anyway. Forgive yourself before anyone else does. Learn from your mistake, but not beat yourself up over it. I think that's what I'll say for now. And thank you again for the lively audience and for giving me the chance to come here.
Wow. I dare say we're definitely going to have to organize some kind of a book reading with you, and bring some young people in to do their own reading versions and ask them, what this is about and what they thought and all that. And I think I'm going to leave that in the capable hands of Big Sis Elsie. I kind of just threw a wrench there. Elsie, for you, something we can do about this book. I think it's just so powerful. And I might even get Kendi Love, who is a poet. I'm going to try to see if I can get Kendi Love here on that particular platform to do some of the readings in a poet's voice. I think it will be powerful. And she has been through some things herself. And so I know this book is going to be very powerful for her. So Kendi, I'm drafting you and everyone else here. Guys, we appreciate your liveliness and your loveliness. I am so thankful that you're always here every week. I cannot wait for Tuesday to get here in time so I can hang with you guys. I appreciate your time and your investment into my younger self and just how you guys are so involved. You don't make us feel like we're talking into thin air, and that is a precious thing. Thank you. Thank you. Doctor, I want to say thank you for making time for us. You could have been doing so many things on a Tuesday morning, but you chose to spend your time with us. So God bless you for that. Thank you for writing this book, and thank you for stepping out because, shoot, now I want to write a book.
Good. No, you should. Why not?
And guys, can I please remind you, find To My Younger Self on YouTube. We are going to be leaving Facebook very, very soon. You don't want to miss all the greatness we have coming. This year is so power-packed. We are fully booked all the way until August. So I'm telling you, there's so many people coming through. You do not want to miss it. So find us on YouTube and please subscribe to the channel. Please, please, please. We don't like to beg on here, but today I thought I would make an appeal. Thank you so much. Next week, we have another doctor coming through. We're leaping back to Ghana. Dr. Howard is going to be here with us. And this is the beauty of To My Younger Self, the fact that we are family. They don't have to be necessarily, and I have my hands up now, celebrities or known people, because their stories make them known people. They've lived those stories. This is what To My Younger Self is about. Everybody gathering around the tree and telling their own stories. So please, please join us again next week. We're going to be here with Dr. Hawa Milechi, and we're going to have a wonderful time again. And I'm going to unhook. My dear friends, I love you. I am so grateful. So from Dr. Jalia Kangave, I feel like I just butchered the last name the whole time. I'm trying so hard.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine, Zoe.
We are going to sign off. How do you say goodbye in Uganda?
Wherever.
All right. That's going to take some doing. Wherever you. Goodbye to you guys. We love you dearly. We are going to see you next week, and we are signing off. Bye. So much love.
Bye. Thank you.
fraba. Moko school, my bye.